Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You have made it to Friday. Weekend is here, and that means that it is time for another episode of the Sports Room. Here along with Darius, Biggen Matthews. Derek is missing today,
Yes,
so Biggen and I are running the ship. What's going on, big fella?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. Exciting weekend.
What's up? What's going on this weekend?
Got a date tomorrow with my pretty coworker, man. Yeah.
Tell us about her.
Been scared to ask this girl out since I started working at this place. I'm like, it's going to be weird. It's going to be like Michael Scott and Jan working in the same place.
I don't know if it'll be exactly
It won't be like that, but yeah, it'll be like that. But no, she's cool, man. She coached college soccer, played college soccer. She's a real cool girl.
So you mentioned this a while ago.
Uh-huh.
I think on last Friday's show you mentioned that you wanted to ask her out.
Wanted to. I finally
got the courage up.
I finally built up the courage, man.
Let this be a lesson. I want all the girls, if there are any listening to this, to understand.
Yes. That
just because we ask you out doesn't mean that we are confident in doing so.
Exactly. Preach.
It is seriously one of the most nerve-wracking things to ask a girl, especially, I feel like most of the time you're fairly confident they're going to say yes going in, but there are times when maybe you're like just cold approaching a stranger that, I don't know, a girl that you see and you're like, wow, she's really pretty.
How's it going?
And you're going up and you just cold approach, and it's just like, you could very well get shut down.
Easily.
And even in your case, in your situation where you're coworkers and you know each other a little bit, if you ask her out and she says no, or even if you ask her out and you go out and it doesn't work out, you still got to show up to work.
I got to see that girl.
Yes,
that's why I was nervous. But it was her last day when I asked her out.
Well, all the guys that I know are pulling for you.
Yeah, thank you.
We are all Darius Matthews this weekend.
Yes.
So best of luck to you there.
Thank you, sir.
Dude, so much has happened this week.
A lot.
This is one of the bad things about only doing this show bi-weekly, like twice a week, is that we miss so much that happens throughout the week that we don't get to like come in and react to. But we're going to do our best to give you guys the freshest, hottest, dopest takes that there is in the entire sports talk world. What we're going to do today is we're going to get started with the 2-minute drill that actually lasts 6 minutes. That's what we call a 2-minute drill. At the beginning of the show, we try and go through some of the biggest headlines of the week as fast as we can. We call it the 2-minute drill, but it usually ends up taking around 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
So let's get that cranked up right now. 2-minute drill. First thing on the docket, announced yesterday, a new Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class, headed by none other than the great Atlanta Brave Chipper Jones.
Chipper Jones. I did like Chipper Jones growing up. I don't know a lot of his stats, but I know I used to watch him play, and I was like, hey, I like that guy.
One of only a few times in the history of the Hall of Fame that they have gotten 4 or more people in. Chipper Jones, obviously, first time on the ballot, got 92% of the vote. Vladimir Guerrero, the slugger for the Angels, he said he was going to wear his Angels cap on his bus. He got in. Jim Thome, the slugger, 600 home runs, played for a few different teams. He got in. And then one of the greatest closers of all time, Trevor Hoffman, also got in on his 3rd try. And so, obviously, a lot goes into Hall of Fame voting. We put it out on our Twitter yesterday, dealing with the question about steroid users getting into the Hall of Fame. And we got great response, really, from that poll. And the results of that poll were what, Biggen?
64% of people said that they should get in.
That they should be in.
And 37% said that they shouldn't.
Every year around this time when this happens, this topic will always be brought up. And people who make that argument that they should be in, and I know you're one of them.
Yeah.
I can't find ways to directly disagree.
Right.
But I, quite frankly, would rather see Pete Rose get into the Hall of Fame than someone who used roids, someone who was juicing.
Yeah.
It's like the way that I view it is like most of the time, especially the case with Barry Bonds, but most of the time, what the retort that I hear most often to that is, oh well, they had a Hall of Fame career before they started juicing. And while that may be true, that doesn't carry. It doesn't completely make sense. It's like me saying that like I had this girlfriend and she was the best girlfriend I ever had until she cheated on me.
Until she cheated on me.
It's just like that's how it is. They had a really great season until they decided to cheat. And I don't know that I'm directly opposed to them getting in, but I would quite frankly rather see Pete Rose get in sooner than anybody who was using steroids at the time.
I just think Barry Bonds, his resume of work, just simply, to me, it just says steroids or not, you're a Hall of Fame guy. 763 home runs and had a batting average of 298 over a career. And he had his WAR was higher than Chipper Jones and how do you say Thome?
Jim Thome
put together. So, I mean, it was never proven that he did steroids, although I do agree he probably did because he went from skinny to huge Barry out of nowhere. But 73 home runs in a season, arguably the greatest hitter of all time. I think you got to let the guy in at some point.
It's really tough to deny. He before steroids was probably one of the best baseball players ever, if not the best one.
Yeah.
And so that's hard. It's really disappointing that he would tarnish his legacy in a way like that. That didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, moving on in the 2-minute drill. Yesterday, also the NBA All-Star teams, the NBA All-Star captains, LeBron James and Steph Curry did their draft, where they drafted their teams. Was not televised, but they each had some funny comments to say. Anyway, the end result of that is that LeBron James ends up with KD, first overall pick. LeBron also drafted Kyrie and Kevin Love. Mm-hmm. And so they'll all be reunited. Steph isn't hustling into the front office anytime soon, let's say.
Not at all.
Did not draft as well as people. He was getting killed on Twitter.
Look.
But it seems to me the way that this turned out was that LeBron drafted KD first overall, then Steph took Harden, and then I would probably say LeBron took Boogie.
Yeah.
Steph took Giannis.
Yep. Then AD.
And then LeBron took AD. And then he took probably Embiid, I would say Curry did. And then LeBron took Kyrie and Steph took DeMar DeRozan. Those are your starters.
Fact of the matter is, I think, LeBron ended up taking Russell Westbrook too. I don't think Westbrook or Kyrie Irving like Steph Curry too much. And I think that's probably why Steph didn't pick them. And who knows, maybe Boogie doesn't like Steph. Boogie doesn't like a lot of people.
Does anybody like Steph? I feel like
I don't get why not.
People,
nice dude.
I feel like people in the league don't like him.
They don't. I really agree. I genuinely agree.
And I can kind of understand because, especially once he started experiencing some success, he won his first MVP, they won a title. I felt like his behavior did change a little bit. Like he was a little more...
A little loose.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, a lot of NBA players had beef with that. Anyway, the All-Star team rosters were announced yesterday. Hopefully next year we get that televised because that would be hilarious.
With the first pick.
Watch. Exactly.
Team LeBron James.
Or what? I heard it someone on one of the shows I was listening to today. I want to say maybe Dan Patrick. Mm-hmm. Why not just have them go out there, like everyone just show up at the arena, and then they just go up and say, "Hey, you're on my team. You're on my team. You're on my team. You're on my team."
Pick teams like elementary school.
Like everybody. Like it'd be hilarious. Like that's how we do it. That's how you do it at an elementary school.
That is.
Why does it need to be any different? I think that would be great as well. Anyway, the starting lineups and the reserves were announced yesterday for the All-Star game. Not going to be competitive. Never is, but always fun to watch.
And also, I think LeBron James might be gone after the All-Star break. I think LeBron James is gone. I'm saying it. LeBron James is not coming back to Cleveland after the All-Star break. If I get it wrong, I'll do 100 push-ups on site. But I think he's gone.
Defend yourself.
There's just too much turmoil going on in Cleveland right now. I just feel like nobody's getting along. LeBron James is still trying to be the GM and the head coach. Tyronn Lue and LeBron are having friction. I feel like Jay Crowder, Kevin Love, all those guys, nobody's really meshing. And Kevin Love, we've seen this week, has been the scapegoat for all the problems. They pulled a house meeting on him and basically had an intervention and called Kevin Love out. It's not on him. LeBron, what are you doing? J.R. Smith, you're a bum right now. Sorry. I think LeBron's out.
Bold predictions there from Biggen. You heard it here first in the sports room. Says Darius Matthews that LeBron James will not be back in Cleveland after the All-Star break. And it's really not the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. I think a lot of people are kind of floating that idea. Anyway, moving on to the last piece of our 2-minute drill, and it's also where we'll start the show today. Yesterday, in a huge announcement, WWE owner and chairman Vince McMahon announced that the XFL will return in 2020 without gimmicks in order to be a serious football league.
Serious.
He announced yesterday that he's giving a professional football league another go. It will be called the XFL, the same name of the league McMahon and NBC tried for one season in 2001, but this time won't rely on flashy cheerleaders and antics as its predecessor did. McMahon also said that he would be the sole funder of the league, putting in $100 million of his own money.
Wow.
To get this thing going. It's going to be an 8-team league, 10-game season with 2 semifinals and a final.
Right.
And no players with criminal records will be allowed on the field.
That just killed all my hopes and dreams because I was like, Johnny Manziel's going to be in the XFL, but sorry.
There's no way that's going to hold up.
I don't think so.
It's just not possible because, I mean, it's like if you were in if you just turned 19, let's say, and got caught shoplifting when you were in high school, you have a criminal record.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guarantee you,
I stole some bubble
90% of the people who play college sports have done that.
Yes.
Have a record of some kind.
Right.
Unpaid parking tickets and, reckless driving, whatever, a myriad of things that they could be charged for.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. That's not going to hold up. They might have some sort of, I don't know, like some sort of line.
Right.
Like if you've been to jail or something.
Which is understandable.
Sure. That might be a line, but simply saying what he was saying yesterday pretty much was that he didn't want anybody with like a sketchy sort of past to be in it, and that's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. You want guys like Johnny Manziel in the XFL. He's going to bring notoriety. He's going to bring viewers. He's going to bring everything there.
Why not just like play to it?
Right.
You know, why not be like, okay, starting lineup or starting quarterback for whatever team is such and such who was in the joint for 4 years for killing his brother or whatever. Right. You know?
Right.
Well, I mean, why not just embrace it? That's what it is.
The comebacks.
That's basically what the last XFL was.
Yeah.
It was just a bunch of like...
That's all it was. It was Adam Sandler and the boys playing football. That's what it was.
Also, in the press conference yesterday, McMahon did address a few things. A lot of it seemed up in the air still. Excuse me. A lot of it seemed up in the air. No plans had been made. It was just that he wanted to announce that he was relaunching the league. Like, they don't know where the teams are going to play and things like that. But what he did say was that he wants to make it more family-friendly.
Yeah.
Which I'm not exactly sure. How is football already not family-friendly?
Pretty sure it's family-friendly.
I watch with my 9-year-old little brothers all the time.
Right.
But he wants to make it more family friendly. He wants to move faster. He wants games to be under 2 hours, 2 hours or under.
Right.
And he also said that he will not allow kneeling during the national anthem. And so he didn't address a lot of specifics as far as the league was going to go, but he did address a few, and those were a few of them.
Right. I don't think he has to worry anyway because I think the protests are pretty much over. They ended, week 11, week 12. By that point, it was all done. So I think now he's good. But, I mean, it sounds good, so it's just like, hey, we're welcoming any and everybody. My question is, does Colin Kaepernick get into the XFL?
Sure.
I don't see why not, but will Vince McMahon let him in? He should.
I think people will watch if he plays.
I think so.
You know, I think plenty of people would watch. I think it would be a good business move for them to have him in there.
Him and Johnny Manziel, bring them both.
Sure. Yeah, that would be huge. Anyway, that was big news. That dropped yesterday.
Huge.
And so what that made me think at least was, okay, so he wants to start this alternative league. Right? He wants this to be an alternative to the NFL. He did say that he wants to start the league in January 2020, which is obviously going to be right near the end of the NFL season. Coming up to the Super Bowl. And he wants it to sort of be different. And so what I was thinking is, what are some things that the XFL could do or embrace or have that would make it as good, make it legitimate, is what I'm going to say, because to think that it's going to be as good or better than the NFL, I think is a little ludicrous at this point.
Right.
But to think that it could be a legitimate league is not.
Right.
And so what are some things that it could embrace and do, in your opinion, Darius, that would give it some legitimacy? That if you heard they're doing this thing that's like, oh, that's really interesting, maybe I'll watch.
I feel like they have to build their own stadiums. I mean, that's a lot of money, but I feel like if you're going to say that you're going to possibly be better than the NFL, you got to do what the NFL does. You got to do what the big dogs do and do it better. NFL has stadiums. XFL, what are you going to do? You're going to play at a college stadium? You're going to play at a high school? Where are you going to play? You have to get either better places or the same. And I think also, and these are the only two that really came to my mind initially, make teams in states where NFL teams don't have them, in states that you wouldn't really think of, like
Utah.
Yeah, Scranton, Pennsylvania, like a city like that. Or, Utah, Idaho, places like that. Yeah, have a major team in L.A., major team in New York, maybe a major team in Chicago, but then branch out to these states that don't really have
Portland.
NFL teams. Yeah. Go out there. Go to Portland. Come to Utah. What's another place? Go to Rhode Island.
Yeah, anywhere in Middle America. Yeah. Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes. Yeah.
Lincoln, Nebraska. Any of the Dakotas.
Any of them. Yeah. The
Oklahoma
Dakotas
City.
need help. Wyoming.
Oklahoma City. Yeah, Wyoming.
Yep.
Head out to Laramie and see how long you last there. Anyway, those are great ideas. I think I agree with you as far as needing to branch out to different markets. If you try and dominate a market that the NFL is dominating, it's not going to happen. Like if you try and put a team in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that Green Bay, like Wisconsin in general, isn't like this metropolis, but it's like you can't compete with the Packers.
Cheese.
You know what I mean? It's like putting a team there is dumb, stupid.
It's not
really
smart.
Silly thing to do. Putting a team in Salt Lake City, we were talking before the show. I wouldn't really care for it.
Right.
It's kind of prove itself to me before I'm like piqued my interest. But you know, people here I think would like it.
I think
we only have one professional sports team. I think people would love it. Same with Portland.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You know,
that's a great city to live in anyway.
Yeah, Portland's a really cool city. I was just out there earlier this year. Beautiful. And so definitely got to branch out, expand at different markets, because if you try, that's what I mean is if you try and be the NFL, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna surpass the NFL.
Right.
You can supplement the NFL, but you can't surpass the NFL.
Can't do it.
This is what I would say. Football games, college and pro, are too long. Mm-hmm. Like it's to a point where if you want to sit down and watch a game, start to finish, you got to block off 3.5-4 hours of your day.
Of your day. You're right.
And one thing I love watching soccer, and part of the reason why I do is because they start on time. Mm-hmm. If the game starts at 9 a.m., it starts and it is over, done by 10:45.
At that time.
Because there are 2 90-minute halves, there are no commercial breaks, the clock never stops. Mm-hmm. Halftime is literally like 5 minutes, and then they pick up and play again.
They're good to
and
go.
that's it. It starts at this time, it ends at this time every time, no matter what.
Right.
And so what the XFL, what I think would be great to do is have no halftime, but maybe a semi-extended commercial break after every quarter.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you have to deal with this super long halftime of 20-minute halftime or 30-minute halftime is what it seems like in the NFL. Instead, you just have 4 5-minute commercial breaks throughout the game. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Right.
That's all you see of commercials. The rest is just football. There's no halftime. You just go quarter to quarter to quarter to quarter.
Right.
Another thing that I would say is that if you want viewers, summertime is the time to do it.
Oh, yeah.
They should run this league, theoretically, June through August.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because that is the lone wilderness of the sporting calendar.
Yeah.
All you have is meaningless baseball games.
That's it.
And when I say meaningless, I mean that in every sense of the word. They are meaningless.
Yeah.
And so if you created a football league that played during the summer as an alternative to the only other sport that's going, which is baseball. Ratings are going to... Right. And plus, that will have been long enough after the end of the NFL season where people are starting to realize, I really miss football.
Yeah.
At least that's how it is for me. Like, after the Super Bowl is over, I think, that was a great football season. The NBA playoffs kind of pique my interest for the rest of like the spring and into the summer. But then once June hits, really,
I have nothing.
I'm like, I can't wait till September.
Right.
And so that would be a great time to start and execute the league being during that window.
I agree.
Might be a million degrees outside if you like have a team in Orlando or Miami or something. But look,
that's the price you pay.
Yeah, that's when viewership would happen, I think.
Oh yeah. So
those are a couple ideas that Biggen and I had for the XFL. Obviously, super interesting story. Not going to happen until 2020, but I'm gonna watch. I think see what it's like.
Yeah.
And we'll see, what any kind of legitimacy this league can garner.
Right.
I think there is a demand for it if it's done right, and he has insisted that this time it's not this trash talking, WWE combined with football thing. He wants this to be a legitimate football league.
Anything with the name WWE tied to it is gonna be dramatic. So yeah, get rid of that altogether.
Can I just ask that question for a sec? What is the appeal of WWE?
I still don't know. I no idea.
What is the appeal? I mean, they have these personalities that have rose to stardom through WWE, like John Cena and The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin and whoever else.
Right.
But what is the appeal? If anybody listening to this or watching this, tweet at us, email us, please enlighten me.
Teach
me. I want to know why, because I don't see it. It's all. If it wasn't scripted, I can see it maybe, but it's like everything that's happening is all fake.
It's fake.
I get that it might be cool, but it's fake.
But what makes it worse is that some of these dudes are getting paid $15 million to go out and pretend to punch somebody. I should become a WWE star.
You really should.
Clearly, that's where the money's at.
You really also, you said earlier today that if the XFL does start a franchise here, you'll be the first one in line at Treeouts.
I'm going to Treeouts. Me and Cheeseburger Eddie, we gonna be there. Treeouts.
Cheeseburger Eddie.
I'm in there. Ready to
That's
go.
my dude right there. Cheeseburger Eddie. Oh my gosh, that's
Yep. The Convicts.
that's a great movie.
The Utah Convicts. I can see it now.
I genuinely enjoy that movie.
That's a great movie.
All right. Let's move on to our last topic of the day. I saved plenty of time for us to be able to do this.
Oh yeah.
We put out on Twitter yesterday. Mm-hmm. I asked a question, and we mentioned this before when we were. I think on Friday's show, we mentioned that we wanted to. There were a lot of like these fights happening in the NBA, these almost fights, and we floated the idea of what if UFC did an NBA fight night and pitted these NBA players against each other. What are the best fights that you would watch? So we asked our Twitter followership, who are your if the UFC did this, if they sponsored an NBA fight night, who are the people that you would want to see? Mm-hmm. Present players, past players included.
Right.
They can go present versus past, or the likes fighting against each other. We got some pretty good responses.
Yes.
Here, we're going to read some of the best ones, have a chat about them, and then what we did prepare is we prepared an actual, so if we're going to suggest this, I'm going to send this to Dana White and say, look, this is what you should do in the NBA offseason. We got a suggested fight night of 3 fights, 2 undercards, and a main event that we think would just be lights out. But some of the ones that we got back on Twitter that we enjoyed, this is from @Herb515. Rob Herb, I believe is his name. He suggested Ben Wallace versus Charles Oakley.
I don't know. I think Ben Wallace gives Oak the work. Oak's a tough dude, but Ben Wallace is a mountain of a man.
I never watched Charles Oakley play, so it's tough for me to see, to picture in my mind how this fight would go.
Right.
All I know is that Ben Wallace was this he was just this massive ball of muscle
and
who could do nothing on a basketball court except for enforce. Yes, that was all he could do.
Block shots.
And I don't know what happened in Oakley's career, like what he was, maybe he was the same way. And I know that he had this reputation of being this really tough, scrappy guy. Mm-hmm. But for me, I don't know, dude, Ben Wallace, it's like, bruh.
The only defense that Oakley has is the fact that if you look up NBA fights on YouTube, the first person that pops up on almost every video is Charles Oakley getting into a fight. And he has at least 8 clips on each video. It's hilarious. Can Oak hold his own against Ben Wallace? I don't think so.
@BigPD68 suggested Boogie Cousins versus Steven Adams.
That's like Pacific Rim Part 3. That's what's about to happen. You got some kaiju and a robot.
We'll address that one a little bit later. @SkyMain suggested Karl Malone versus Ron Artest. Now, Artest was a name that popped up a lot. We're just reading the best ones here, but his name was thrown out a lot in responses. And oddly enough, we are located in Utah, so a lot of our followers are local people, so a lot of people also suggested Karl Malone for different fights. If Ron Artest and Karl Malone fought, that would be no contest.
Yeah.
Mailman would knock his butt out.
He's delivering for sure.
Yes. Karl Malone, I mean, you forget, you need to look at pictures of him when he was younger.
Huge.
He was bigger than Ben Wallace. Yes. I mean, he was only about 6'9", I guess, in terms of NBA, he's a little undersized for a power forward today, but
huge.
He was a mountain of a man.
And he knocked David Robinson out cold with an elbow. So
crazy. So, yeah, if they actually did fight against each other, I would take Malone. I'd mortgage Karl Malone there.
Everything.
This one was from @Stockton Razzo. This is Gordon Hayward versus Joe Ingles.
This is the Utah dad fight.
This is the reason really that suggested is because of the beef.
Right.
Like, that's what you want to see. You want to see them fight out the beef.
The beef.
That they might have. I don't know that there was ever really, they were never vocal with their beef. Right. At least Ingles wasn't. I don't think he ever
Did they have beef with each other?
Well, I think there's assumed beef.
Oh.
Because the way Hayward just upped and left.
Yeah, just left.
Part of me my heart wants to side with Joe Ingles. because now I just can't stand Gordon Hayward for what he did. But I feel like Gordy is a little better of an athlete. He could probably move around a little bit more.
He looks pretty strong, too.
They're probably about the same size, I would say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Gordy's, he's probably a little tougher. But he's kind of a pretty boy. I feel like, Joe Ingles is Aussie. He's a little scrappy.
He's a little rough.
Might get in there and
pull out a boomerang,
gouge some eyes.
Koala bears,
pull some hair. I don't know.
A little something. Pull a crocodile out of his back,
He looks like he could hold his own in a fight. That might be a push for me there.
When I think about this fight, I think about going to a junior jazz game in Utah and seeing two dads who have a disagreement fight. That's the image that pops into my mind. Two angry dads fighting each other.
Junior jazz, for those who don't know, is like the recreation basketball league here, where parents show up to take things way too seriously and ruin the evening for their kids.
Yes.
This one is from @Timo87, Kyle Lowry versus Ben Simmons. And I believe the reason that this was suggested was because last week they did have some beef.
Yeah.
And looked like Ben Simmons kind of signaled to Lowry, hey, let's meet out in the hall. Lowry was down and ran out there. Obviously, nothing ever happened. But
didn't happen.
I'd probably go Simmons there.
Yeah.
He's got the size, the reach.
Yeah, it's over.
Lowry's he's tiny. I don't know how small he is.
He's got a big bark, but I don't think he can bite Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but I haven't really seen an edge from Ben Simmons. And I think to win a fight, in any fight, whether it's UFC, boxing, a street fight, you got to have a kind of edge.
That's true.
And I haven't quite seen that from Ben.
That's true.
And so maybe if Lowry really brought the heat, he could stand a chance. But I think measurables, you would say Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. I'd agree.
This one was one of my favorite ones, and it is not going to be in our fight night, even though I think it very well could be. Scottie Pippen versus LeBron.
Whoa. That's a Titan fight.
That is, because we were thinking before the show that nobody in the league today realistically could match up and fight LeBron, I don't think. With how big he is, he's 6'9".
Big man.
And he's thick, and the way he can move and how athletic he is, there's not going to be very many people that could compete with him.
Right.
But Scottie Pippen might be one of them.
I think so. We forget, Pip had like Dwight Howard shoulders at 6'8", 6'7", so I think so.
And he's from the South. He's from Arkansas. He's scrappy,
and he doesn't flop.
He doesn't flop.
So LeBron flops a little bit.
He's all muscle.
That's true.
And toughness.
And nose.
And I don't think LeBron is those things.
No.
LeBron's more intimidation.
Yeah.
And then
once you get past that barrier, he's like, whoa, hey.
But I don't know what I would do there. Like if I had to bet on that fight, a UFC fight between Scottie Pippen and LeBron.
Unless LeBron lands like
I would pay whatever sum.
I'm paying to watch. Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know what I would do if I was betting on that. Oh, man.
I'm going Scottie.
You go with Pippen.
I just think LeBron has to land a sick head kick, I feel like, to get Scottie. Or like a spinning back fit. Like he has to land a John Jones type move. I think Scottie Pippen's going to push the action, back LeBron into a corner, and probably pick LeBron up at some point. I think he'd body slam LeBron. He'd get him close. Take him down.
This next one is also a pretty good one, I thought. This is from @Adrian87, Joel Embiid versus Patrick Ewing.
Oh.
I'd probably go with the Beast there.
Yeah.
I feel like Embiid, if he hit him at all, he'd just be injured and would be done. Like if Ewing connected in any way, he could just probably like swing and hit his arm and Embiid would be like, oh my gosh, and he'd fall over and he'd be done.
I feel like this is a great fight because Ewing is one of those dudes who, he was a typical NBA fighter today. Talked a lot of junk, but never pushed the action. Same thing with Joel Embiid. So who's going to throw the first punch is the real question. They
don't call Ewing Beast for no reason.
That's true. He was a beast.
And I feel like he had probably the longest arms of anybody in the history of
He definitely had orangutan arms.
So he would definitely have the reach.
Yeah.
I think Embiid's kind of a pretty boy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
He hasn't really proved. He hasn't like same thing. It was the same thing with him and Lowry or with Ben Simmons. He just doesn't. I haven't seen the edge.
You got Twitter fingers though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He can go as hard as he wants as long as he's behind a screen.
As long as he's behind that screen, he's good. I think Pat knocks him out.
Yeah, I'd probably go Ewing there. And then we couldn't let this slide. Without getting one in about Russ.
Yes.
About the Brody.
But
we had this is one that Darius and I came up with ourselves. We had a really tough time thinking of someone that would size-wise because that's what we try to do with all of these, really, was match up people who are about the same size.
Right.
Who, size-wise, could compete with Russ. And we pretty much decided that if he fought any point guard in the league, now he would win.
He'd win.
There's no point guard, anybody 6'3", 6'4", and under that could beat Russ.
Steph's getting worked.
Chris Paul, child please.
Yeah, it's over.
Anybody. He would work anybody over.
It's done.
But what we did come up with was the only man who might have been more bat crap crazy than Russell Westbrook is, and that person is
Latrell Sprewell.
We're talking about a guy who had the gumption, the guts, to literally strangle his coach on national television. He might be the only guy of roughly the same size that could compete in a fight with Russell Westbrook.
He's crazy. Not only was he fighting coaches, he was fighting NBA players. I mean, it seemed like on a weekly basis. I remember watching Spree when he played for New York and Minnesota. If he wasn't choking his coach out, he was trying to choke out the opposing player or one of his teammates. And that's why he kind of got pushed out of the league, because he could not keep his cool.
So if you're a betting man, UFC Fight Night NBA-style, Russ Westbrook versus Latrell Sprewell, obviously both in their prime.
Ooh. Spree's a thug, man. But Russ is. You look at Russell Westbrook.
I might go Sprewell there.
Russ got a screw loose though. Like something's off.
Like if he got hit, he'd just go absolutely nuts.
I think so.
That's tough.
I don't know, man. I feel like Sprewell will
We're
pull
talking about a guy. We're talking about a guy in Sprewell who strangled his coach.
That's his signature move. Stranglehold.
That's like the special move. Yeah, like the special move that you have. Oh my gosh.
But
I think I would probably go Sprewell there.
You going Sprewell?
I think I would.
I think Brody's explosive enough to just let him have it, though. I don't know.
Am I crazy? I don't know, man. That'd be a good fight.
He's scary, but I think Sprewell pulled some dirty stuff out of his bag.
All right, so if we were bringing this idea to Dana White,
yep,
of the options that have been given us, and in the time that we've thought about this, these are the fights that we would suggest to Dana to do on UFC NBA 1, the first fight night for the NBA. So what we've done is we have 2 undercards, like a regular UFC fight night, 2 undercards and a main event. In the first undercard, we talked about this a little bit earlier. This is the Clydesdale division.
Right.
The heavyweights.
Big fellas.
What we would have is coming in at 6'11", 270, straight out of the University of Kentucky, the mouth from the South, DeMarcus Boogie Cousins.
My man.
And his opponent would be the Thunder from Down Under. Even though he's not from Australia, he's actually from New Zealand. The all-black Steven Adams coming in at 7 foot 255.
Ooh, I'm telling you.
So like I said, we mentioned this one a little bit earlier. Let's see. So Boogie's got him in weight. Steven Adams has him at 1 inch in size. The Kiwi Phenom is what his nickname says
the
on
Kiwi
Basketball Reference.
Phenom.
Yes.
Boogie versus the Kiwi Phenom.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Let me get this. I'll get this out right now. Steven Adams is one of the most intimidating looking players in the league, maybe the most.
Definitely.
With the hair, the stash, and sometimes face, the beard.
No smile.
The side, no emotion. Even he shows no. The only time I've ever seen him show any emotion on a basketball floor is when Draymond Green kicked him in the nuts.
That was it.
And he showed pain, as any man would in that situation.
Ooh.
He's emotionless.
No emotion.
Boogie Cousins is the exact opposite. Has so many emotions that he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Right.
I think...
I feel like Steven Adams.
I would go with Steven Adams.
He knows some stuff.
New Zealander.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Polynesian. I feel like they just have like a mystifying sort of toughness about them.
They don't feel pain.
I mean, he's not only is he Polynesian, but he's from New Zealand, where rugby is like this huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go Steven Adams. I'd go Adams.
I feel like Steven Adams has a solid jaw. Like it's going to take a few.
You could never knock him out. If you were going to beat Steven Adams in a UFC fight, it would be by like split decision.
Yeah.
You go all 5 rounds, however many rounds they do in the UFC, and it would be by split decision.
DeMarcus Cousins, look, DeMarcus
Maybe I'm
Cousins
underestimating
hood,
him a little bit, but
he's hood, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But this dude he's from the streets. He's rough. He's rugged, and I think DeMarcus Cousins is a bully. And I don't think he's the bully that is like, I pick on kids smaller than me. I think he's the bully. You're 6'8", 300 pounds. I'm still taking your lunch money. And I feel like with these two, I feel like it's going to go down to the wire. Nobody would get knocked out, and I think Boogie wins by decision.
I think
Boogie's too quick.
I think Steven Adams would knock him out.
You think so?
Yeah.
If he lands the right punch, he probably could.
The more I think about it, the more convinced I am of that he would knock him out.
I bet Boogie has a glass jaw.
So that's the first undercard fight. The second undercard fight featured two people who we said had been mentioned a lot. Mm-hmm. Coming in at 6'9". Don't remember where he went to college at the moment.
Louisiana Tech? No, Louisiana State, I thought. Not LSU, but Louisiana
From
Tech.
Nicknamed Big Ben, Body, and Debo.
Nope.
Coming in at 6'9", 240. Fear the Fro. Straight out of the Malice in the Palace. Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace.
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Big Ben.
Applause.
And his opponent would be 6'9", 250. Straight out of Louisiana Tech. He delivers every day of the week, ladies and gentlemen, and twice on Sundays, the mailman, Carl Malone.
Okay, so get this. Ben Wallace went to a junior college. He went to Cuyahoga Community College, and then he went to Virginia Union University. I had no idea.
Me neither.
Anyway, proceed.
Carl Malone versus Ben Wallace would be the second undercard fight that we would suggest at Dana White. Mm-hmm. So we had people suggesting both of these guys pitted against people who physically could never match up. And we felt like they physically are almost identical.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at Carl Malone when he's young, like I said earlier, he was just massive. And I felt the same way about Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace, yeah.
Both these guys could pack a punch.
Oh, yeah.
This we know from watching Ben Wallace. Like I said, straight out of the Malice in the Palace.
Yes. I mean, he shoved Ron Artest halfway across the court just from a push.
The homer inside me wants to say Carl.
I want to say Carl simply for the elbows. I'm going with Carl because, A, he knocked one man out and he injured several others with elbows. That's his go-to move.
I'd probably go Carl. I think I'd go Carl. I think we set Ben Wallace up for failure there.
And you got to remember, Carl's from the South. He's a farm boy. I mean, he kind of talks like this, too.
There's tough and then there's farm boy tough.
There's farm boy tough.
They're two different, they're varying degrees.
Man, city boy and farm boy, it's different.
So I think we'd probably go Carl there. Then the main event, this was the best fight that was suggested to us, I thought.
I think so.
And it was from my boy Tate Meskey. His Twitter handle is at Tate Guy, TAITGUY. This was the best one, I thought. And I would pay any sum to watch this happen.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. Let me see. All right. Coming in at 6'1", 185. Nicknamed Mr. 94 Feet.
Mr. 94.
Right-hander, point guard, shooting guard, currently playing in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Beverly.
The Lonzo Ball Stopper.
The Lonzo Ball Stopper.
The big baller stopper.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we got Patrick Beverly. Straight out of Hampton, Virginia.
VA.
6 feet, 165 pounds. From Georgetown University.
Yeah.
Nicknamed The Answer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Allen Iverson. So in our main event fight that we would suggest to Dana White, we've got AI, notoriously tough and scrappy.
Yep.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yep.
It's tattooed on that man's body.
And we always talking about practice.
And we talk about practice quite often.
Practice.
Pitted against the guy in the league today who some say is the grittiest, toughest guy in the league. They call him Mr. 94 Feet for a reason.
For a reason.
Size-wise, it's a perfect matchup. Like I said, AI 6 foot 165. Beverly's 6'1", 175. What Iverson lacks in size, he probably makes up for in toughness and scrappiness.
Yes.
I love thinking about this. I'm not going to lie.
I do too. I've been thinking about it basically this whole time.
Patrick Beverley was a 2-time all-defensive.
Yep.
On the all-defensive team. That takes a certain degree of like effort and toughness to make those teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a defense in the NBA is. Are you willing to try?
Right.
And wow.
I feel like in a fight, Allen Iverson is a lot like Floyd Mayweather.
Do you know what I could see totally happening in this?
What's that?
Is if they actually fought an octagon, someone like sneak like a shank in their sock. Probably AI. You know, he just like sneak some kind of weapon in there, and like the second he gets hit, just kind of like whip it out. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just totally like just go street fight.
It would be a street fight.
Where's Beverly from? Let me see here.
I think Iverson would be hard to hit. I think he'd be like Floyd Mayweather. He'd be very elusive.
I think you're probably right about that. Excuse me.
And I think Beverly's the aggressor. I think he's the guy that pushes the action. I think he's a little more like Mike Tyson, like, I'm going to go after you, which could be his downfall.
Beverly's born in Chicago, man.
Chi-Town, Chirac. Ooh.
So we got like Hood, Virginia against downtown Chicago.
Yikes.
Yo. This has turned out to be even better than I thought it was when we picked it.
After watching that special on Iverson, though, Iverson's he's tough as nails.
I go Iverson, dude. I think.
I'm going Iverson.
But that's the kind of fight where first person to blink would lose.
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I think so. I think, honestly, it would be a haymaker throwing fight.
I think you're right.
Like, they're going at it, and then the first person to connect that
punch, toe-to-toe.
It's over. Yeah. No running, just boom, 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 knockout.
So I'm going to get Dana White on the horn. I'm going to get him up, talk about these, because if you want pay-per-view, sell viewership.
Yeah.
Take things that people already know and love and bring them in. This is exactly what that would do. And the amount of people that would watch these fights.
Shoot. With Conor McGregor going to boxing, this would not surprise me. This would kill. Are you serious?
Let me look at some of the other out. Like, if you really put Boogie Cousins and Steven Adams in an octagon together,
people are watching.
I would not. I wouldn't take my eyes off it.
No, absolutely not.
Like,
you know, one that didn't get in there, and I just want to throw it in there real quick, even though I didn't mention it before. I just thought about this because there was such debate about who was the real Superman. Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard. And I'm saying Shaq knocks Dwight Howard clean out. And that's my bias talking. But
I don't know. Shaq can't really. I guess prime Shaq. Yeah,
prime Shaq, not old man Shaq.
I was gonna say he just couldn't move. In there,
no.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going prime Diesel.
All right, this has been The Sports Room, the sports show that actually talks about sports. Thank you for listening, downloading, watching, however you did that today. Follow us on Twitter @_the sports room _ we got about 5,000 followers.
Yeah.
We're up there.
Looking good.
You can tweet at us your questions, respond to our polls, and whatever else we want to put out there. If you want to contact us directly, you can email us at thesportsroomtalkshow@gmail.com. New shows every Monday and Friday.
Yes, sir.
Both, we release them on SoundCloud. They go to iTunes, and then we also release videos on YouTube. So however you like to consume your sports media, we got you covered.
Consume it. Get full. Get fat.
We will see you back here on Monday. We're going full Super Bowl week next week. And sure to be a fun week. So hopefully Derek will be back on Monday. Thanks again for watching.
Boo,
we will
Patriots.
see you then.